Courage to love.
Gary the Snail and the Mushroom Village.
On a calm summer night, soft moonlight bathed the forest in a silver glow. Gary the little snail was slowly making his way across the dewy grass, his small, delicate shell resting on his back. The night air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of earth and green plants. Crickets chirped softly in the grass, and fireflies carried their little lanterns through the bushes. He loved exploring at this time, seeing the world transformed by moonlight, feeling the peace and mystery of the night forest. As he moved along, a strange glow caught his eye. Nestled in the shadow of some large leaves stood a cluster of mushrooms, but these were no ordinary mushrooms. They pulsed with a soft, gentle blue-green light, like fireflies, as if they were breathing, arranged in a small circle guarding a secret. Gary had never seen anything so beautiful. Curious, he called Clonzen. These must be the most delicious treats in the forest, he thought. Unable to resist, he took a tiny nibble from the smallest, gentlest glowing mushroom. Something magical happened. Suddenly, the grass blades around him seemed as tall as giant trees, and his own shell felt strangely light. He had shrunk to the size of a little ant. Before he could even gasp, his foot slipped on the wet moss, and he tumbled head over shell down a small, steep slope like going down a natural slide. When he finally stopped, dizzy and disoriented, the sight before him took his breath away. He had rolled right into a tiny village built entirely of colorful mushrooms of all sizes. The houses were made from hollowed-out thick mushroom stalks, with round mushroom caps for roofs, some decorated with glowing moss. Little windows shone with warm yellow light, and paths were paved with tiny colored pebbles and bits of shell. Small villagers, they looked like adorable little mushroom sprites with round eyes and smiling mouths, dressed in leaves and petals, were gathered around the most damaged mushroom house, looking very worried. Its roof had a large hole and looked unstable. Oh dear, last night's wind was too strong. It blew a big hole in old Morel's roof, said a sprite wearing an acorn cap, his voice full of worry. Yes, and without strong materials to fix it, if it rains tonight, old Morel's home will be sunk. He could get sick, sighed another with long, wispy whiskers, leaning on a twig cane. We've searched everywhere, but all we found were thin grass stems, not strong enough at all, added a sprite with a dandelion fluff hat. They all chattered, their voices filled with concern and helplessness. Gary, now unsized himself, was just the right size in their eyes. He heard the villagers' troubles, saw the hole in the roof, and felt worried too. He wanted to help. Slowly, he crawled to the edge of the group. Hello, he said softly, his voice like the wind brushing through grass. The villagers turned, startled. Wow, a giant snail! One sprite exclaimed, taking half a step back. Don't be scared, Gary said quickly, trying to look friendly. I'm Gary. I ate a glowing mushroom by mistake and shrank. I heard you need help with the roof. The sprites looked at each other. An older sprite with longer, whiter whiskers, the village elder, stepped forward. Greetings, brave snail Gary. Yes, we desperately need strong materials to mend old Morel's roof. Sadly, we are small, and the thin twigs we found are too weak to hold against wind and rain. Gary looked around. His snail eyes were sharp in the moonlight. He spotted something near the edge of the clearing. Several sturdy, thin twigs, broken off by the wind, longer and thicker than the ones the sprites had found. They were too big and heavy for the tiny sprites, but perfect for Gary's new size. I see some twigs over there. Maybe they'll work. Gary pointed with his eye stalk. Yo, yes, how did we miss those? The sprites cried, their eyes lighting up. But then they looked downcast again. But they are too heavy for us. And how would we get them up onto the high roof? We can't fly, and we can't climb that high. Let me try, Gary said bravely. He crawled over to the twigs. As a snail, he had a special talent, making sticky slime. It was what helped him move and stay safe. Gary carefully climbed onto a suitable twig and began crawling along its length. Wherever he crawled, he left behind a trail of shiny, super sticky slime, like a strip of silver tape. He dragged one long twig over to the mushroom house. Then, he crawled carefully around the edge of the hole on the roof, leaving a thick line of slime, just like spreading strong glue. Next, he asked a few strong sprites to help lift one end of the twig. They gently placed it onto the slimy edge of the roof. The moment the wood touched the slime, it stuck fast. It stuck, it really stuck, the sprites whispered excitedly, clapping their tiny hands. Gary didn't stop. He knew one twig wasn't enough. He dragged over a second, then a third. He carefully laid them side by side across the hole, using his slime to stick each one firmly to the roof edge, then to the twig beside it. To make sure the twigs wouldn't blow away, Gary had another clever idea. He asked the sprites to collect lots of tiny, smooth pebbles and hard-seed shells. Gary carefully placed these pebbles right on top of the spots where the twigs met the roof and each other, like little weights. He crawled over them, his slime acting like glue, fixing the pebbles firmly in place. One by one, the twigs were stuck down and weighted, forming a strong little raft that perfectly covered the hole. The sprites watched in awe as Gary worked steadily in the moonlight. When the last pebble was secured, the roof was not just fixed, it looked even sturdier than before. Hooray, the roof is fixed. Amazing, Gary. All morale is safe tonight. The villagers erupted in cheers and applause, filling the tiny mushroom village with joy. They gathered around Gary, their gratitude shining in their eyes. Thank you, wonderful snail Gary, the elder said warmly, his white whiskers trembling with happiness. You used your own special way to solve a big problem. We must thank you properly, the sprites nodded. They rushed to their homes and brought back their most precious treasure, dewdrops collected at dawn, as round and sparkling as pearls. Very gently and carefully, they placed these glistening dewdrops onto Gary's hard, smooth shell. The dewdrops caught the moonlight, sparkling with rainbow colors, turning Gary's shell into a shimmering work of art. Gary felt warm and honored. The cool touch of the dewdrops on his shell made him incredibly happy. The night grew late, and tired, but happy. Gary fell asleep on a soft moss bed the sprites prepared for him. He dreamed sweet dreams of dancing under the stars with his new mushroom friends, celebrating the repaired roof. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight peeked through the trees, gently waking Gary. He opened his eyes and gasped. The mushroom houses looked tiny again. He stretched his eye stalks. He was back to his normal size. The lively village of the night before now seemed like a charming miniature model. The little sprites peeked out from their windows, waving goodbye with big, grateful smiles. Gary felt a little sad to leave, but happy he could help. He slowly turned to crawl home. Just then, the morning sun shone directly on his shell. Something sparkled. Gary craned his neck as far as he could to see the top of his shell. There they were, the dewdrops. The poor-like dewdrops the sprites had given him. They hadn't disappeared when he grew big. Instead, they were nestled right on the top curve of his brown shell, like tiny diamonds. In the sunlight, they sparkled with clear, shimmering, rainbow-colored light. It was the most precious gift from the mushroom village, a shining badge of his helpful deed. As Gary watched the sparkling light dance on his shell in the morning sun, warmth and understanding filled his heart. He realized that everyone has their own special gifts and strengths, like his sticky slime and strong shell. By respecting and using his own unique talents wisely, even a small snail could help build a strong home for friends in need and achieve something truly wonderful. Carrying the sparkling treasure and a heart full of joy, Gary set off once more on his journey. The crystal light on his shell scattering little dancing points of light along the forest path with every step he took.